Do you think the AMA's criticism of the Premier's approach is warranted? New South Wales has been a world leader through the course of 2020.
Yeah, Tim, I think you might have just answered that question. Look, when the Biden administration was looking, the incoming Biden administration was looking around the world to see, who has done this best and who has managed this pandemic the best. They reached out to the New South Wales Department of Health to see how they've managed this. We have some inherent advantages in Australia, but there's no doubt that what has transpired throughout this year is it's not about eliminating the virus, it's about managing the risks. And I don't think there are many other jurisdictions that have done it much better than New South Wales.
What have you thought of some of the finger pointing? And this is just part of it. We've seen a bit of chest beating from different premiers. Look, we are Australians first, aren't we? I had a good, long, protracted conversation with an epidemiologist this morning who made it very clear that closing borders is not what's going to work and not what's going to help.
Yeah, look, we know from other diseases, particularly Ebola, and this was contained in Hans Osling's book on Factfulness, where he basically points out that over many decades, what the World Health Organization found out was track and tracing is the best way to eliminate Ebola, especially in African countries, and that border closures or shutting people in can have a short-term impact, but in the long term, actually creates a level of distrust between health authorities and populations that you're trying to help. And that has long-term negative consequences on being able to contain and manage epidemics like this one.
Should Daniel Andrews get back to work? People aren't real happy with him because they're banked on this New South Wales border and he's on holidays.
Oh, look, I understand that all leaders in Australia these days have an incredibly tough job, and most of them also have families as well, and it's a tough call. But at the moment, most of the states in New South Wales, it was a very serious outbreak. Greg Hunt said to me only a few days ago that it was more serious than the outbreak in Victoria in May. There were 2 super spreader events, not one, and obviously the track and tracing people in New South Wales Health have done a fantastic job in containing and managing that outbreak, and that's effectively where we want to get to, where we're managing the risk down without putting people constantly under locking people up all the time.
Yeah, it's not good for mental health, business, economics, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. Now, you're calling for the Premier and Chief Health Officer to relax restrictions early in the northern part of the beaches. There is talk today, there's pretty confident talk that the southern part of the northern beaches will see an easing of restrictions. You want it right across the northern beaches?
Look, not necessarily right across it, but the Pittwater zone is now locked down till the 9th of January. I think if the data continues the way that it has continuing, I guess I'm asking health officials and the Premier to reconsider that date, which is the 9th of January. It seems to me that it can be brought forward. But look, we'll have a new set of data today. If that comes in, yesterday there were 0 cases on the northern beaches. So if that data continues, I would urge the Premier and the Chief Health Officer to consider actually bringing that date forward if there's no reason for it to remain till the 9th of January, especially in the Pittwater zone. And look, those of us in the Warringah zone, in the Warringah-Manly zone, have, I think, for some time thought that it's only because we're part of this mega council that we also were locked down, not like the rest of Sydney, but like the Pittwater zone. So hopefully we'll get some good results. But look, Tim, at 11 o'clock, we'll find out if there's been another spike. Well, understandably, health officials might want to keep some of those restrictions in place. But hopefully there haven't been, and we can all be relaxed, especially businesses who really rely on this time of year on the beaches to have a good trading period so they can set themselves up for the rest of the year.
I wouldn't ask you this question without answering it myself because I'm a father of 3 and I'd be happily taking my kids to the Sydney Cricket Test next week. Would you?
It's a good question. And I guess the point that a lot of people up here are making, I'm just reflecting the views of my community, is when you look at Balgowlah, Killarney Heights, Coleroy, even Manly, there have been 0 cases in those suburbs. In Paddington, there have been 4 or 5 active cases, and you've got a cricket test happening. So a lot of people up here are sort of wondering what's going on, and hopefully we can get some equivalency out of today's press conference.
What about this Queensland border? Do you expect it to open in New South Wales on January 8?
Look, I'll just reiterate, Tim, what the Prime Minister said yesterday, which is a lot of premiers are very quick to put borders up, and I would urge them just to be as quick as bringing them down. And the Northern Territory, I think, has set the standard in that, where, look, understandably, the job of every government is the safety of its people. That's its first priority. But when the risk passes, I think that it's time for people to review those borders sooner rather than later.
Because their unemployment situation up there is in, well, you wouldn't say dire, but it's pretty ordinary, and lots of businesses, particularly around the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast, are reeling.
Look, I hear that from people like Angie Bell and Stuart Robert as well. I've got to say that at the moment, this is all being supported by the federal government payments in JobKeeper. They start tapering off as of yesterday, and I am worried that when they finally come off, there'll be a lot of people that aren't going back to work, and that will be, potentially a result of some officials maybe not being more responsive than they should have been to changing events and making sure that people can get on with their lives when it was safe for them to do so.
Jason, I hope you have a wonderful 2021. It can't be much worse than 2020. I think that's a collective, whether it's society, sport, anywhere else. So we look forward to 2021 with an air of confidence, and good to chat with you.
Thanks, Tim. Really appreciate it.